Welcome to This is Getting Old, Moving Towards an Age-Friendly World. I'm your host, Melissa Batchelor, and today we're going to be talking about how to age well and the power of positive aging. And I'm joined by Dr. David Lereah. So welcome, David.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
And so maybe before we begin, you can just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got interested in this concept of positive aging.
Oh boy, I was an economist. So I'm an economist and, worked for years on the economy as a chief economist for different organizations. And then I was diagnosed with stage 3 esophageal cancer. I never smoked a day in my life, but yet I got esophageal cancer. And I went on a journey. It was a terrible journey. It was a journey where I needed to really find myself and learn how to cope with a life-threatening disease. And I remember my oncologist, after my PET scan, he basically said, "This is going to be tough. And I can't give you any guarantees. This is stage 3 esophageal cancer. We're going to go through intense chemotherapy and radiation. And then you're going to have a 7-hour surgery. We're going to take half your esophagus out, half your stomach out, reconnect them, and then just pray." And we were a little beside ourselves, my wife and I, when that occurred. And he left the office. And I remember the nurse looked at me and she said, "If you survive this cancer was just an inconvenience." And that's where it all started for me. I looked at life-threatening disease, if you survive it, as an inconvenience. And then I went right to aging, because all of us age. We all confront the marks of aging, whether it's a life-threatening disease, whether it's loss of mobility or hearing impairment, whatever it is, it's an inconvenience. It may affect the quality of our life somewhat, but as long as we can smell the roses, hear the waves, hit the shoreline, it's an inconvenience. So I went on a journey and I did my research on how to cope with aging. And that's where I discovered power of positive aging. And one thing led to another, and I wrote the book. And I was a Meals on Wheels volunteer before I was diagnosed with cancer. And I had this vision of helping seniors in need. So combine the cancer battle journey with my Meals on Wheels volunteering, and I created my nonprofit, United We Age. So that's the genesis of where I am today.
Okay, and we're going to talk about both of those things. So first we'll talk about the book, and then we'll talk about the nonprofit United We Age. So what are some of the things that you learned that you need to be able to do in order to have a positive experience with aging?
Well, with positive aging, I discovered there's 6 building blocks for me personally, and I try to relate it to everyone else because we're all the same. We're human beings trying to get along in this world and trying to cope with physical and mental decline as we grow old. And there are 6 blocks, building blocks that I identified for coping with aging. And that's basically your spirit, which I think is so important. We all know about our spirit. We all talk about it, but we don't do anything about it. We just worry about wrinkles on our face, age spots. We worry about losing our mobility. But at the same time that we may be physically declining, our spirit, we could be strengthening. And I know that with the baby boomer generation, that was really the first generation to really start getting into meditative practices, the New Age, spiritualism, Buddhism, and all of those things. So tapping into your spirit while you are physically declining, to me, is a big offset and really helps people as they have to confront marks of aging. So your spirit, tapping into your spirit's the first building block for being positive about aging. And then, of course, we've got positivity, which is a whole event in itself. How do you stay positive? And I know a lot of us use affirmations to stay positive. There's a lot of different techniques that I go through in the book to stay positive. And then we have living in the present moment, which we call mindfulness. And that's the meditative practices of positive aging. And then I have something I call the 4 A's. And that's, you have to accept your mark of aging, whatever it is. If you have mobility loss, accept it. Then you have to adapt. Well, use a walker. And then you have to appreciate everything you have in life while you are confronting a mark of aging like mobility loss. And then finally, it all comes down to attitude. You got to have the right attitude in aging. And yeah, you know, we've climbed the hill in our lives, but you know what? We're not going down the hill. Stay on top of the hill. Look at the scenery. That's what attitude is all about with aging. And then I've got social support as the 5th building block. We're social animals. We're human beings. We need support. We need friends. We need family. And it's especially important when you're aging, because you know you may be losing your spouse at some point. You may be losing some close friends. You need to continually expand your network, your social network. Very, very important. And finally, but probably the most important building block that I've discovered is balance. You've got to stay in balance. When you age, you get out of balance. You're no longer bringing up a family with children. You're no longer striving in your career to get better and better at what you're doing. Now you're retired, you're an empty nester, and you've got time on your hands. You're out of balance. And when you're out of balance, you experience stress, you experience anxiety, sometimes bouts of depression. Stay in balance. So I talk about ways that we can balance our lives in our twilight years, and that really helps immensely.
Right. So I will say, in listening to that, I agree with a lot of what you've said, but I do think that with normal aging, you may experience some loss in strength, as a normal part of aging, but decline in and of itself isn't normal. And so if you're living a healthy lifestyle, you really shouldn't experience physical decline unless there's some illness, that's causing that. So just to separate out kind of what is normal with aging compared to what's common. I think that a lot of times people think that, oh, well, I'm going to lose mobility. I'm going to lose my ability to hear. I'm going to lose my vision. Well, you'll experience some visual changes, like being able to read up close. You're going to need readers. That's a normal part of aging, but to lose your hearing is not normal. And to experience losses with mobility, while they're common, it's not a normal part. So just to make that distinction.
Well, it's all in the use of the word decline. We start declining after age 20 in a lot of different ways. I mean, I can no longer run a marathon. I can no longer do my 100-meter dash in the time that I used to be able to do it. So we all experience some type of physical decline. We all experience some type of mental decline. But yes, what you want to do is put it in that normal range of decline, right, which is fine, because that keeps us in a positive mindset that we know we're in that normal range. It's when you start to get out of that normal range that people have real difficulty confronting that mark of aging. And that's why right, positive aging is so useful for them.
Right. And I also mostly say that too, because of so much self-imposed ageism. When, I do think that you should accept the fact that you can't run a 5-minute mile anymore. I never could, so I don't have to deal with that one. That one's off the, I'm good.
Yeah.
But, to expect that you're going to decline. So that's just why I wanted to make that point. You might not be able to do everything at the level you could have in your 20s, and 30s, but there are still things that you can do. And so maybe that's part of the coping, to just kind of, and to accept, okay, well, I can't run a 5-minute mile, but I can do a mile in 10 minutes. I might have to walk, run it, but to do as much as you can to maintain your mobility and your health, all of those things.
Here's a good example of that. When we're younger and we're really physically fit, I played a lot of basketball. That's what I did. I was a basketball player. I can't do that anymore. I can't even touch the net. I can't jump that high. And I used to be able to dunk a basketball. So I turned to tennis, and I played a lot of tennis, but then my knees started hurting. So I turned to golf. And now I play golf. At some point, golf may even be too difficult. So I'll turn to playing cards, or I'll turn to play pickleball, which is now a very popular sport for older people. So we need to revise our expectations as we age. And to me, that's all part of balancing your life. And to me, the best thing is to eliminate your expectations when you're in your twilight years. And instead of expectations, have possibilities. What's possible? If you have possibilities rather than expectations, you won't be disappointed if you can't play tennis anymore. Then you can play golf. That's a possibility. And that's what keeps you into a positive mindset. And I would keep that in that normal range of aging.
Right. Well, and actually, in even adapting, what you, from basketball to tennis to golf, and then you have a kind of a plan for where else you might be able to go, what else is possible. Through all of that, you're keeping yourself engaged in life. And so that helps to build your social network. It helps with everything else. So by having just a mindset of, I'm going to be active and engaged in life, whatever that looks like, I totally agree that that's the best way to do things. So, and I really like the story that you told in your book about, kind of being present in the moment and helping the guy who was getting wet in the rain. I don't know if you want to share a little bit of that story.
Yeah, I was actually at my parents', they lived in a senior care facility, and I was sitting by the window in the lobby, and it was pouring out. It was just sheets of rain coming down. And there was this elderly man on a walker, using a walker, but outside getting drenched by the rain. I ran out there with my umbrella and I tried to cover him, and he said, "Get away from me." So I went back inside. I was startled. And when he got inside the building, he came over to me and he goes, "Son, I'm sorry that I yelled at you, but you've got to understand, I was enjoying those raindrops hit my skin. They were tears of joy for me." And that really hit a nerve for me. It struck a nerve because it really told me that you need to live in that moment and appreciate any moment that you're experiencing. And he learned a lot as an elderly man to appreciate. And that's gratitude. And that's something that we all need to have as we enter the twilight years of our life.
Right. And I actually, as you tell the story this time, it makes me think of, if it had been a child in rain boots, just standing out in the rain, no one would have even questioned, children, that they were living in the present and just enjoying the rain. So it's an interesting mindset to think, well, because we've aged, we don't really want to get wet, when maybe that's a good thing to do. So, so we've talked a little bit about the book, which I have right here, and thank you for sending it. I was reading through it over the past week. So maybe talk about, well, let's just shift and talk about how you ended up forming the United We Age organization and what the purpose of that is, and maybe some of the partnerships that you developed.
Yeah, with United We Age, again, it all came from my experience with Meals on Wheels, where I'm delivering hot meals to seniors in need. And I noticed there's basically, and I say this in my book, to me, there's 3 types of aging. You can have a positive mindset, which is the best way to approach growing old. And then you can just practically age, which most of us are in that bucket. My parents were in that bucket. And that's where you know that you're growing old, you're making the best of it, you're socializing, but every now and then you have some anxiety about finality. You have some anxiety about just some of the marks and, you know, the physical declines that you're experiencing, but you're doing okay. But then you have that third group, and that's, to me, God's waiting room. And that's, you know, a group where people have lost their zest for life. And I noticed
They
that on
have,
my Meals from Wheels route, that half the people on my route lost their zest for life. They would just, I guess, you know, just like if you're in a laundry room waiting for the clothes to dry, that's, to me, what was happening to a lot of these people. And one of the reasons was they did not have social interaction,
right.
except for when I delivered their meals. They were really vacant of any social interaction. They didn't have family. No family were visiting them. So I created United We Age, which I identified where these people are. It turns out that long-term care facilities, half the people in long-term care facilities don't have family visiting them for one reason or another. It might be their children live 1,000 miles away, or it might be they just don't have a relationship with their family at all. They're lonely. So as an example, I remember I delivered a meal to, I call her Miss Mary. She was from Atlanta, Georgia, with a big, heavy Southern accent. She had 5 children. None of them visited her, ever. They all lived in Georgia still, and she was living in the Florida area. And I would just sit down with her, give her a meal, and we would talk for 20, 30 minutes. And one day she just said to me, you know, you being here makes me feel like I'm alive. And that really hit me hard. So we created United We Age, and our goal, our objective is to provide social support for seniors in need, particularly. Now, all seniors need social support, but we were focused more on the seniors in need. So we created a Friends for Seniors program where on their birthdays, we come and we give them a birthday gift. We sit with them, we give them holiday cards. We play Santa Claus on Christmas and hand out Christmas gifts. And that's our Friends for Seniors program. And then during the pandemic, we realized that we weren't able to even be allowed in the building to give them their gifts or to communicate with them. So we created a Stay in Touch program where we're now placing Amazon's Echo Show devices into their rooms or apartments. So they can now video chat with us or with their family and really have connection with the outside world. And more importantly, with the internet. Now they are in the technology world that we're all in. And that's what I thought was so important, is to connect them with technology and with the internet so they can enjoy their lives in the 21st century. So we're spending a lot of time now with trying to get this Stay in Touch program up and running. And we're working with a partner, Speak2, and we're working with Amazon. And right now, we're in discussions with Meals on Wheels to see if we can place these devices on the Meals on Wheels route, on where all their seniors in need, so they have an Echo Show, and the Meals on Wheels volunteers can communicate with them, not just when they physically deliver the meal, but ongoing through video chats.
Right. So 2 things. I'll start with I'll connect to the last point that you just made. I think the village movement is another a potential partner for you. That's I don't know if you've heard of the villages before.
Oh yeah, the villages, yeah, in Florida.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Well, actually they're everywhere. I think DC has like 13 of them or something.
Oh,
But that will be another volunteer network that kind of complements the Meals on Wheels, but it's, you know, basically building in a social support network for you in whatever community you're in. And then the other thing that, as you were talking about, the 3 different kind of ways to either be positive, practical, or waiting in God's waiting room. I can remember a lady that I took care of that she was profoundly depressed, and all the providers had tried to get her to take an antidepressant. And she was like, well, no, I don't think I want to do that. I'm just waiting to die. And I'm like, well, we're all kind of waiting to die. So what do you want the quality of your life to be while you're waiting?
Right.
Yeah. And so she took the antidepressant, and came back and did feel better. But it was just like, it's always interesting how people's mindset really impacts what their experience is or what it could be. And to know that you don't have to be miserable while you're waiting.
Absolutely. It's funny because when I was going through my cancer, I had some serious complications after the surgery. And I remember my oncologist said to me, maybe you need to see a psychiatrist and take some antidepressants to get through coping with your complications from surgery. And I chose another route. I chose the route of positive aging. That's when I started doing my research and said, there's got to be a better way to cope and get out of this depression, because the depression was situational. It wasn't,
Right.
Internally mental. And that's when tapping into my spirit and starting to meditate started to help me a great deal. Now, I know it's difficult for elderly people to all of a sudden start meditating for 30 minutes. It's not going to work. But they can tap into their spirit for 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes at night. They can do a little meditation if you teach them, and you'd be surprised. I've seen it happen with the people I'm working with. They start to have a more positive view of life as they start to live in their present moment, and as they start to tap into that spirit, you start to see some real emotional improvements.
Right. And I agree that it's always better to do things without medications, if you can. Yeah. So, or at least blend the two. So if people want to learn more about you or want to learn how to connect with you, what are some different ways that people could be in touch? Maybe if they have an idea for a partnership or want to join your organization, volunteer, donate.
Well, certainly go to unitedweage.org. We've got actually a brand new website now, and we've got a section there, a page there for volunteering. We also are beginning to grow, and we're creating affiliates across the nation. We're creating one now in North Carolina. We're based in Florida, but now we'll have one in North Carolina. We've got another one potentially in Utah. So if anyone wants to start a United We Age affiliate, we're very, very open to that, because we just want to spread our programs to every community possible. And then in terms of our programs themselves, long-term care facilities, nursing homes are the best for the Friends for Seniors program. And in terms of stay in touch, where we put technology into people's homes, my view is we've got to get the senior population into the technology revolution. They need to participate. Just like we spend time trying to get children in low-income communities to be connected to the internet so they can study and learn education-wise, we need to do the same thing for seniors. So that's what we're pushing right now, and hopefully it'll gain some momentum. In terms of connecting with us, other than the website, we're on Facebook and we're on Twitter. We are involved in a number of different programs. We're involved with a Community Thrives program that's put on by the Gannett Corporation, USA Today. We've reached out to AARP, and hopefully we'll do some things with them as well.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being with me today and talking about the power of positive aging and how to age well. Any final thoughts before we close out?
No, just thank you so much. And I just hope that everyone ages in a positive, the most positive way they can, because you got one life, live it to its fullest. And one thing I've learned, other than all the serious things about positive aging and all those building blocks, the best building block of all is laughter. You got to
Mhm.
laugh sometimes because that reduces your stress and just makes it a more enjoyable, happy life.
Right. Well, I agree with that. So everybody's got the roller coasters of life, that it's better to be laughing while you're on that ride.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and good luck with everything.
Thank you so much, Melissa. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to This is Getting Old, Moving Towards an Age-Friendly World. I'm your host, Melissa Batchelor, and if you'd like to learn more, you can check out my other episodes on my YouTube channel by subscribing and ringing the bell to get immediate notifications when new content comes out. In addition, you can also find the audio version of the podcast on Amazon Music, Spotify, iTunes, and Stitcher. Please feel free to leave an honest review, because more reviews mean more awareness of the podcast and helps us move towards an age-friendly world. If you have a comment or a question, you can visit my website, melissabphd.com. Go to the Contact Melissa tab, and you can leave me a voice message. You never know, it might just include your question or your comment in an upcoming episode.